Everybody, and welcome to May the Force Be With Who. I'm going to do a quick video on the best multi-doctor stories. We've got a new multi-doctor story coming up at Christmas with the Peter Capaldi regeneration story. We're getting the first Doctor back, or a version of the first Doctor back, so thought this would be the appropriate time to do this video. So here we go. And this is cool. All right, I just want to preface by saying this is not the how I rank these. By no means are saying from worst to best or whatever. I think they're all good. It's just putting them in order as from, which ones are just better than the other ones. So here we go. Number 4, the 20th anniversary, The Five Doctors. Now, this was the very first multi-doctor story I ever saw. I had the novelization for it before I even saw it back in '83. So when I was way younger. This story should really be called The Three and a Half Doctors because, as famously known, Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor, refused to appear in the story. So we had to basically use archival footage from the Lost Story Shada to fill in his part where he was trapped in a time eddy. And unfortunately, the first Doctor, William Hartnell, had passed away, so they had to recast the role with the actor Richard Herndl. And he just did not, to me, really look or sound or give the vibe of the first Doctor, so that did not work. And also, there is not a lot of on-screen time together between the three and a half Doctors. They're all separated while they're playing the game of Rassilon. That's kind of the plot that President Barusa is wanting immortality. So he scoops all the versions of the Doctor, 5 of them at this point, out of time and space to play the game of Rassilon to help him achieve immortality. And of course, the fourth Doctor gets stuck, hence the time eddy, and they are all separated trying to get to the Tower of Rassilon. And they're only together really at the very end. And like I said, it should have been called The Three and a Half Doctors, but it's a good story. It's solid. It was 1983, so the effects aren't the greatest, but it was the 20th anniversary story. Patrick Troughton steals the show as the second Doctor, which is funny because out of 3 out of the 4 multi-doctor stories, he's in 3 of them. But he's definitely the strongest thing in there. His comedic stuff with the Brigadier is great. We also get Sarah Jane Smith back. The Raston Warrior robot is something I wish that they would bring back to the new series because that was something that was really cool that we had never seen before. It's a good story. It just wasn't, it's just not out of the 4. It's fourth. So moving on, number 3 is going to be the 2 Doctors with the 6th Doctor, Colin Baker, and once again, the 2nd Doctor, Patrick Troughton. And this actually was about a year and a half after the 5 Doctors. And it's one of my favorite stories. It's definitely my favorite Colin Baker story because the 6th Doctor is a whole lot less manic in this episode. And Patrick Troughton, again, is Patrick Troughton. We also get the return of Fraser Hines as Jamie, who's pretty much, I believe, the longest reigning companion ever. And his chemistry with Patrick Troughton is great. Basically, there's a scientist who has augmented a species called the androgums, and they're very kind of primitive and all about food and eating other cultures and stuff like that. And he's taken an androgum named Chesini, Jacqueline Pierce, who's a standout in this, and augmented her, operated on her brain, and so now she's a super genius. And she comes up with this idea that she wants to team up with Sontarans, which we get the tallest Sontarans in the history of Doctor Who in this story, but that they want to steal the secret of time travel from the Time Lords. So they're trying to get it from the 2nd Doctor, and basically the 6th Doctor kind of gets wind of it and is off to the rescue. And it's not so much really a team up between the two because they really don't get together until episode 3, which, their scenes together are good. There's just not a whole lot of them. It's more or less, it's Jamie joining the 6th Doctor and Perry to save the 2nd Doctor. But it works. And, Fraser Hines has great chemistry with Colin Baker and with Nicola Bryant. I like the story. The standout scenes for me, though, are all Patrick Troughton when he has a face-off with the Sontaran leader, and he's trying to challenge him to a duel, basically, so he can escape. That's got some good moments in it. And the other scene where they decide to augment the second Doctor, it performed the surgery on him to make him an androgum, and him and the character Shockeye, John Stratton, they go into Seville, I think, to try the cuisine because Shockeye keeps wanting to eat humans, and basically at some point, poor Jamie is on the menu, and that's a whole subplot going on. But it's good. It's like I said, it's my favorite Sixth Doctor story, and it's my third favorite multi-Doctor story. So the Two Doctors from 1984. And in second place, we have the original multi-Doctor story, which was the 10th anniversary special, The Three Doctors. Now, the basic plot of this one is Omega, the original stellar engineer for the Time Lords, who gave them the power to travel in time and space, has returned. He's been trapped in a antimatter universe since the beginning of the whole Time Lord culture, and he wants to come back. And so he's stealing power from the Time Lords, and the Time Lords need help. And the only person they can turn to is the third Doctor, who they've exiled to Earth at this point. He's working for UNIT, Joe Grant, Sergeant Benton, the Brigadier. And so they go to the Doctor and, like, help us. But there's no, the Doctor needs help because he can't figure out what's going on. So they send the second Doctor to help. And just the spark between Pat Troughton as the second Doctor and John Pertwee as the third Doctor is, notoriously famous because they had very radical ways of coming at the role, where John Pertwee was the, James Bond, kung fu fighting Doctor Who, and was very, if it's on the script, it's what we're doing. Whereas Patrick Troughton's Doctor was, the kind of cosmic hobo and always played the fool, and evidently on set was very loose with the dialogue about, well, I'll say something that's in the general vicinity of what's going on, and, kind of improvisational. And they clashed on set, they clashed on screen. This story probably has the most multi-Doctor action in it. And the back and forth between the second and the third Doctor is great. The Time Lords end up, they can't get along, so they send the first Doctor in to help. And this is where basically we get the whole creation of the Time Eddy thing, which would come back in the Five Doctors to explain Tom Baker's absence. Because the first Doctor, William Hartnell, was in very poor health and couldn't be on set to shoot. So they reduced his role to be basically an advisory role. And we get the great part where he's on the TARDIS scanner and Doctors 2 and 3 are looking at him and he's talking to him and he's like, oh, my replacements, a dandy and a clown. And it's one of the better classic Doctor Who moments. And it's a good story. It works. And the effects don't hold up for, it's 1973 for Christ's sake, but it's a good story. And it's my second favorite multi-Doctor story. Now getting to big surprise, The Day of the Doctor, the number one multi-Doctor story. I hate the fact that Christopher Eccleston declined to appear in this, because think about how awesome this would have been. It also probably would have been cool if they could have put the Eighth Doctor, Paul McGann in this. That would have been great. But there's nothing wrong with John Hurt being the War Doctor, a Doctor we never knew about, the Doctor that fought in the Time War. That was cool. The chemistry between David Tennant and Matt Smith is awesome. They do a little bit of that bickering thing that, like, Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee did, but not a lot. They get along more than they bicker. And with the addition of the John Hurt character, as the story basically revolves around the day the Doctor decided to commit genocide in the Time War by destroying Gallifrey. And there's a subplot with some Zygons and a subplot with UNIT. And nice little callback to the Cromer line from the Brigadier from his daughter Kate. But this story's amazing. And there's lots of callbacks for the 50th anniversary. The Tom Baker cameo, him finally showing up and being the curator. And the bit with Matt Smith where he's like, well, if you were me or if I were you. And then we get the debut of Capaldi with the eyebrows at the scene where all the Doctors show up to save Gallifrey. Awesome. So, Day of the Doctor. So I've got some more multi-Doctor stories coming, or not multi-Doctor, I've got some more Who videos coming between now and Christmas. So I'm going to get those up as soon as I can. So until then, keep on keeping on. and may the force be with you.